Okay, round 24 has us continuing the lavender front post stitches, so we're going to join this lavender yarn in the spike stitch above this magenta front post. So if you notice above there, there's this spike stitch. That's where we're going to start. So our join counts as our first of 10 single crochet. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. After the 10th one, we have our increase. And then 6 more single crochet before we do the front post. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So now comes our front post stitch, and for the distance we're going, a double treble is going to be best, so yarn over at least 3 times. Go around the lavender, and finish off the stitch. Remember to skip the stitch behind, and then we're going to end with 4 single crochet. So 1, 2, 3, and 4, which sets us up for our next repeat, starting in that spike stitch above the magenta front posts. So here we are, our repeat, starting above in the spike stitch above the magenta front post. We're going to start with 10 single crochet, our increase, then 6 single crochet will bring us over to our front post stitch, this overlay. Front post double treble at least, so yarn over 3 times. If you're pulling a lot and you need the 4th one, go ahead and do that. Skip the stitch behind, and then 4 more single crochet set you up for the next repeat. So do that 8 times around, and then we'll move on to round 25. When working on a big pattern, I love it when you can finish a design element, and in this next round, round 25, that's what we get to do. We're going to go ahead and actually finish off this magenta front post section. So it's always, like I said, cool when you get to finish one of the parts. We're going to join our magenta yarn in the lavender front post here. And that's the first for this set of 10 single crochet. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Now we're going to do a front post stitch back to this magenta here. So I'm going to yarn over 3 times because that should be enough. So a front post double treble, I'm gonna skip the stitch here and do 1 single crochet, and now I'm gonna do a puff stitch into this blue one here, not the spike stitch we have here, but one over into that blue one there. So I'm gonna go ahead and grab that, pull it up, so that's 1, 2, because I want to go, 3, 4, and 5 for the puff stitch. I'm going to finish it with a chain, and then I'm going to skip just 1 stitch behind there and finish off this repeat with 10 more single crochet. So 2, 4, 6, 8, these should be my last 2 here, 9, and 10, and that brings me to the front post stitch and where I start the next repeat. So let's take a look at this one. Here we go. Like I said, this finishes off this piece right here. So we're going to start in the front post from the last round, so this lavender front post. We're going to have 10 single crochet, then a front post double treble over to here. Now you notice mine's pulling a little bit, so I may and other ones loosen it up, or may add a 4th yarn over just if it needs it, because this is getting a little tight for me. Do what you need for your stitch. Then after the front post, we do 1 single crochet, a puff stitch, chain, skip 1 behind that, and then 10 single crochet. So 10 front post skip, single crochet, puff stitch, chain, skip 1, 10 to finish it out. That's it, 8 times around. So in the last round, we finished this design element right here with the puff stitch, but it's this round, the one that comes after, that really makes it stand out. So I'm going to go ahead and join the variegated yarn that I used before. This is one of those standalone rounds, so you can use any color that you want. So I'm going to join in the chain stitch that comes right after the puff stitch. So if you look for a puff stitch right here, this one that's a little bit to the right, that's actually the puff stitch. Those are the 2 loops that go with the puff stitch. It's the one that comes sort of right after it that's a little bit to the left. That's the chain stitch. And this one is really easy to miss. It can be very, very tiny if your puff stitch was really, really tight. So you may have to hunt for it, but that's the one we want to join in. So we're going to join with our chain. That's going to count as our first single crochet. And in this section, this is one of those spike stitch rounds, so it's kind of a weird pattern, but it really does work out. What we're going to do is mostly alternate 2 chains and 2 spike stitches. So we start with this 1 single crochet just because you can't do anything spiky or weird where the puff stitch is. But now we're going to do 2 spike stitches after it. Followed by 2 single crochet. And now we're going to do another pair of spike stitches. Followed by 2 single crochet. Now just to make things different here in the middle, instead of doing 2 spike stitches again, we're just going to do 1 spike stitch. Again, just to have some variation, but we're still going to do the 2 single crochet after. And now we're sort of just going to reverse all of that onto this side. So we're going to do just the one spike stitch, but our 2 single crochet. We're always sort of separating these with 2 singles. And now we'll do the 2-2 pattern again. So 2 spikes, 2 single, and our last 2 right in this part should be 2 spike stitches. So notice that brings me to the overlay stitches where I can't do spike stitches anymore. So like I said, we got this pattern where we're going to do the 2 and 2 for the first couple, then just 1 spike with the 2 single crochet and 1 spike with the 2 single crochet, then finish with the 2 and 2 pattern again. Once we get to the overlay stitches, we've got some weird stitches going on in here just to help this stand out. The first one's just a single crochet. Now the other ones are single crochets, but they're called camel stitches. We don't want to go into the front or even the back loop like we've been doing. Instead, we want to flip the work over and find this third loop that's on the back of the work. So that's going to be right there. And you just do a single crochet into that. That makes both the front loops stay on the front, and it sort of adds to the look of this, so it looks like it's all 3-dimensional puffed up on this side of the fabric. So we're going to do that twice, for the single crochet here and for the puff stitch. So not the front, not the back, but if you flip the work over, you want the one that's behind it on the back side. And it's just a single crochet into that. That's what we call a camel stitch. So if you look now, you notice I just did the puff stitch one here, which means my chain is the next one, and that's where this whole thing started. So that means this is where my repeat ends, and I'm set to start the next one. So lots of different things on this round. We got puff stitches, we've got, or not puff stitches, we have to go into puff stitches, but we have spike stitches and camel stitches and a weird pattern, but as you can see, it really helps make everything else stand out. So we're going to start in the chain stitch that came right after a puff. We got 2 spikes, 2 single, oh, I'm sorry, we start with a single crochet here. So 1 single crochet, 2 spikes, 2 singles, 2 spikes, 2 singles. Now 1 spike, 2 singles, 1 spike, 2 singles, back to the 2, 2 spikes, 2 singles, 2 spikes. We do a normal single crochet into that front post, and now 2 camel stitches into the third loop on the back of the work. If you're having trouble with camel stitches, just do regular single crochet into the back loop. That should bring us to the end of our repeat, and the chain stitch would be next where we start the next one. So this is it. This is round 26. Have fun with that and repeat it 8 times around before we move on to the next one.